Oh, now, hi, Duke student admittees. You are live with some current Duke students right now, and we are going to be answering all of your hard-pressing questions over the next hour. How you're going to do it is you're just going to comment in the comment section of this YouTube video, and the questions will be sent to us, and we will do our best to answer them to the best of all of our abilities. So, to start, we'll do introductions. My name is Soren Chargois. I am a senior, have been here for 4 years, and have 42 days left, and it's crazy. I study visual media studies and economics with the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Certificate, which has been awesome. Ask me about it later. And next, we have Katie.
All right, that's me. Hi, everyone. My name's Katie. I'm a sophomore majoring in economics with a minor in visual media studies. I'm also doing the Innovation Entrepreneurship Certificate. I know Soren and I are both doing it, and I highly recommend it. I love it. So on to Hannah.
Hello, I'm Hannah. I'm a sophomore, class of 2020. I'm studying economics, possibly minor in psychology, and hopefully getting my markets and management certificate. Yep, and now we're on to Jason.
Alrighty, kind of finish it out. So my name's Jason. I'm a junior, and I'm majoring in psychology with minors in Spanish and computer science. And I apologize a little bit. My voice is kind of going. I gave a really, really big tour yesterday, but I'm excited to be here with you guys.
Awesome. Thank you guys for the introduction. So we have our first question in the queue, and it's from Christy. How was the transition from high school into Duke? Any tips for a better assimilation academically? Wow, awesome question. I am a senior. I'm pretty far out of high school. So do one of our more recent Duke students want to answer that?
Yeah, so I actually, most students who come to Duke, they've had pretty academically rigorous high schools or taken a lot of academically rigorous classes. But I will say college is very different. And sometimes you come in and you forget that, but it is very, very different. And I'm the girl who tries to use literally every single resource Duke gives me. One thing I will definitely say is Duke has free tutors for you. And I use the free tutor system every single semester, like first week of school, because they fill up. You don't want to go Thanksgiving as soon as everyone's failing their classes. Like, do it before you start to not do well. But you'll do fine. Don't worry. But I always go in, especially for my math classes. I'm okay at math, but I'm not great. And the extra help is always really nice. So first week or second week of semester, I go to the Academic Resource Center, and I usually sign up for a free peer tutor. And you can also talk to them about all the different resources on campus that you can use for your different classes. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm also a sophomore, so I'm just going to add on to Katie's point. I definitely agree with everything that she said. I think, like, no matter what high school you come from or how much you prepare, you can't fully prepare for college because it's just a different experience, and it's a different experience for everyone. So I think I also use the peer tutoring program every single semester, and it's free. And as long as you apply early enough, you're basically guaranteed one. So that's something that I highly, highly recommend, especially for your first semester, just because it's hard to gauge how hard classes may be or what your difficulty level already is.
Awesome. Great answers, ladies. Thank you. Justin asks, thoughts on the Durham, Raleigh area? How often do students typically leave campus? I love this question. I think, and it's actually funny, I was just on a tour. My little brother is actually touring the school right now, and somebody asked this. And undergraduates, so in the undergraduate program, lots of stuff happens on campus. Like, you could easily go weeks without needing to leave campus. I mean, you have dozens and dozens of awesome food options, entertainment, like karaoke, trivia night, game night, like board games. Your freshman dorms do things together. And then as you become an upperclassman, your dorms continue kind of to have group activities, etc. However, when you do get to go out, Durham is a foodie city. It is like consistently ranked lately in the past several years, one of the best in the nation, comparable to Nashville. So great barbecue, great like Gonza tacos is one of my favorite places to go. Luna, people love the food aspects of being in Durham. There's also lots of entertainment options. The Triangle, which is like the Raleigh-Durham area is what it's called. The Triangle is one of also the fastest growing tech places in America. It's kind of known as the new Silicon Valley is what people are saying. And it's very much seems like that, which is awesome. So it's a great place to be. Would totally suggest. Anybody else want to add on to that?
One thing I will say is I think students forget, because there's so much going on campus, you forget how close Raleigh-Durham or how close Durham is to you. Durham is literally right off East Campus. Like it's probably less than a 5-minute walk to start hitting the main area. And honestly, my freshman year, I probably forgot that a ton. And then the beginning of this year, my sophomore year, one of my friends said, "Oh, hey, let's walk into Durham." I was like, "Walk into Durham? It's so far." Turns out it's not far at all. It's just it wasn't something I was used to. And there was this really cool art festival going on. We got to check out all this food. I got a pineapple smoothie. I love food, so I love Durham now. And plus, there's a recent, you've seen it in a lot of big cities, I'm sure, but like the bike share program, there's like colorful bikes that you can rent, freaking $1 an hour. That recently came to Durham in the last few weeks. And I actually rented a bike with one of my friends last night, and we biked into town, and we got dinner there. So you can move and shake around Durham a lot, and very easily too.
I agree. I think there's a lot going on campus, so a lot of times people kind of forget or don't feel even the need to go off campus, but it's always available. Also, there's I know popular places to go is the farmers market, which happens every weekend, and that's in Durham, and people go all the time, and it's fun. Also, recently there was like a food truck rodeo. It was closer to like Raleigh, but you hear about it through Facebook events. There's also like goat yoga. So more like, I don't know, like special-ish events. You'll hear about them through Facebook, and opportunities to go off campus are more than available. It's really more about opening yourself up to getting off campus.
Awesome. I was actually at the farmer's market this morning. It was amazing. We have a question from Christy and Enrique, want to know about the focus program. And I know Katie actually did the focus program, so I'm going to throw this question over to her.
All right. I loved the focus program. And as far as tips for assimilating yourself into Duke when you get here, I think the focus program helped me adjust so much. As far as for those of you guys who don't know what the focus program is, there's about 25 different clusters. They all have different themes, and they're all interdisciplinary. And you choose to do it just your first semester at Duke. And 2 of your classes first semester are within your focus program. The focus that I chose to do was Knowledge in the Service of Society, which is a cross between education and civic engagement, which I was your typical high schooler. I was like, oh, I love to volunteer. Let me do civic engagement. And the focus program was amazing. You get dinner with your professors once a week. And I think that was probably one of the highlights because I got to know my professors really well. And honestly, right off the bat, like, you're going to start applying to things and need rec letters. And having this built-in relationship too with these really cool professors your first semester is so helpful. But I learned a lot from the focus program, and it helped me branch out too. It was education-based, and I'm an economics major. It didn't have anything to do with my major, but they were just such cool classes. So
yeah, just to kind of toss some things into that as like a different perspective. So I didn't do focus. The focus in my freshman dorm was humanitarian challenges, which was like really cool. If you're not interested in like the issues that they're dealing with in the focus program, or like if you don't find a focus program that fits kind of something that you're really passionate about or like fascinated by, like don't feel pressure to go into focus. I think like I know people who did focus and absolutely loved it, right? Like Katie had a great experience in focus. I know people who did focus and ended up like really, really regretting it, or doing focus and realizing that that was not at all what they wanted to do with their lives. So as someone who didn't do focus, like I didn't feel left out. I didn't feel like I was like really missing out on anything because there wasn't something that really fit with like what I wanted to be doing. You know, I had friends in focus, I had friends out of focus. You know, it like if you find something that works for you, do it and you will have a great time, most likely. But if you don't, like if there's not one for you, don't feel like you need to go into focus.
Taking a little bit of a turn, Isadora, Anna, and Oliver want to know what the social scene is like at Duke. Is it cliquey? How do you make friends? What's it like? All right. People are coming from all over the world to this campus that is, although it's a very large campus, it's a very small amount of people. There's only 8,000 undergrads, which is lower, 6,000, maybe 6,000 undergrads.
500 or so.
And despite how large that might seem, some of you probably coming from high schools of that size, there absolutely is something for everybody. The only way you don't make friends is if you don't want to make friends. And I see that sometimes, but generally, if you put yourself out there, you join an engineering team, you join a social scene. We have several sororities, fraternities, multicultural sororities and fraternities, SLGs, which are selective living groups, housing, lots of people who are interested in, you know, whether it's, you know, clean living, clean housing, not clean, but like good for the environment, live together, arts houses live together. So there really is something for everybody. Cliques in the traditional high school sense do not exist in college, which is really awesome because nobody cares about stuff like that. Nobody cares. I mean, we're all coming from very similar, despite our super diverse backgrounds. Duke students generally are going to be, you know, very similar in our individual high schools. You know, do really well, driven, hardworking, being surrounded by other people like that. It's all throughout the campus, which is awesome. Jason, did you want to add a little bit on this?
Yeah, so I think Soren kind of touched on it. I think one of the big things about social life at Duke is that it is pretty dependent on kind of like what you do and kind of who you surround yourself with. So freshman year, everyone is tossed into the dorms, and you can like, you know, you can make friends with literally anyone. Everyone's going to be eating at Marketplace. If you're in focus, you have half of your classes with people who are, you know, living in your dorm and in your focus. But it is the number one time for people to just walk up to you and say, hi, like, what's your name? Like, let's be friends, you know, that sort of thing. That definitely decreases as you move on, like through your years at Duke. Like, it really doesn't happen much as an upperclassman. A lot of the friends that you end up making beyond your freshman year friends and things like that are going to be dependent on kind of the activities you're involved in, the classes that you're taking, and like the groups that you're in. And I think the social scene is like, if you're talking like social scene, like, oh, parties and things like that, that is mostly going to be dependent on, let's say, Greek life and SLG, selective living groups. But otherwise, like, you can have friends in all different groups. Like, there's no reason that you can't be friends with people who are in a different Greek group than you, or like a different SLG or something. Or if you're independent and they're in groups, you can be friends with them too. You just aren't necessarily going to come across, you know, large new friend groups as you move through your upperclassmen years. And that's kind of true everywhere.
Awesome. Thank you. So we have a question on housing. What is housing at Duke like? What's the best dorm? Does geography affect who you can make friends with? Awesome questions. I am going to throw this one to Hannah.
Sorry, I was on mute. Anyway, so for all of us that are speaking, we were allowed to either choose a random roommate or a preferred roommate, but regardless where you lived was random. Either this year or next year, I'm pretty sure they're mandating random roommates. Regardless, you can't select which dorm you'd like to live in unless you are in a focus program that specifically is in a dorm. With that being said, I think each dorm has their pros and cons, and I think they're all equally as good. I lived in East House, which is probably one of the smallest and oldest dorms. It was built in 1918, but I obviously had a very difference from people that lived in Bell Tower, who is like coined as like Hotel Bell, because that was the newest my year. But with my dorm, like, yes, we did not have central air conditioning, but we had a great community like experience. Everyone on the hall, everyone in the dorm was really, really, really close, which is something that I can't say for people that lived in like dorms that held maybe like 500 plus people. So what is the best dorm? That's really kind of subjective question. All of them are just as great. And then the question about, does geography affect who you can make friends with? And as Jason said, there is Marketplace, which is like the common eating place for all freshmen. So regardless of what dorm you live in, you will see all freshmen in this Marketplace area. And though the first few weeks may be more you hanging out with your roommate and meeting friends that way, throughout the year, you're definitely going to see the same people over and over, and people just come and sit together all the time. But for like a lot of people, when like they have their like freshman dorm room friends, you're always going to have like that core group of friends, that maybe your first group of friends that just lived with you and you can hang out in the common rooms, etc.
And one thing I will say that's awesome about all the freshmen being on East Campus, especially come second semester when you've been at Duke for a few months, you're really getting on your feet, you know that all your freshman friends are no more than a 5-minute walk away. So it's so nice having everyone in one spot, and it's just so accessible to see all your friends. One thing I will say, geography, it might not necessarily affect like what friends you make, but what you do. I will say my dorm, right next to the dining hall, pretty far from the gym, or far subjectively, it wasn't very far. So it was kind of hard to explain to my dad why I wasn't going to the gym as much as I was going to the open ice cream bar and the dining hall. But overall, having everyone on the East Campus is such a great experience that, I mean, you're going to love it. So.
Awesome. I love that. I love that. Okay. So we have a question from Daphne. What's the hardest class you've ever taken? Now, I will personally answer this question because I have taken a lot of very hard classes and have many times done very poorly in them. And guess what? I'm still graduating. I still have job offers from really great companies. So, but if I had to talk about the hardest class I've ever taken, it would have to be Stat 111. And like, it's kind of an introductory stats class, and like it's a big lecture, so hundreds of people, and I just did horribly, and I was consistently got like the lowest in the entire, when we'd have quizzes every single day, consistently just get like the lowest in the whole class. And it was okay because I know I am at one of the top universities in America. I am with some of the smartest, like a lot of the smartest people like across the states, and that's amazing and that's awesome. So while it sucks, getting like D's and F's on quizzes, I got through it, and I'm a stronger, better person because of it. And actually, the professor and I are very, very good friends now, and we'd get coffee sometimes and chat. I did end up taking a W, which is not a win, by the way. It's a withdraw, which means the class will go on my transcript, but it will show a W, which means withdrawal. In the several job interviews I've had, never has anyone asked me why there's a W on my transcript. I think that's a big fear a lot of students have with withdrawing from classes. But yeah, it's never been a problem. And I'm seeing a lot of other people in this chat who had problems with classes. So Katie, you want to talk about multi?
Yes, I will say I am an economics major, and you go through multivariable calculus, which is Calc 3. And I'm good at math. I'm okay at math. I'm not great at it. I struggled a lot with math. I will say, though, the professors, I mean, maybe there's one or two, but professors don't want you to fail. Like, they really don't want you to fail. So I met with my professor after I bombed one of my midterms, and we talked about it. He gave me some tips for improving, which was really nice. And one thing I will say, too, is it's easy to forget, but people find different classes hard. I was writing a paper in the library the other day, and my friend sitting next to me, who was an engineer, looked at me and was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how you write papers. I don't know how you do linear algebra. So people definitely have different strengths, but I will say, I mean, for me, my hardest classes at Duke have always been the math classes. So I took a math class my first semester. I think Hannah also took a math class first semester. Going back, I almost wish I hadn't, so I could have gotten maybe a better feel for Duke before I took what would be a very competitive class. So, yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes. To add on to Katie's point, I'm also an econ major, which if you are, you're required to take at least some form of calculus. And my hardest class was definitely Math 111, which is, I think, intro to calculus. And I was shooketh because I took calculus A and B in high school, did really well in those classes, and then came here and was just like, I'm getting a 30. Regardless, I passed the class, passed the next calculus class, passed the next one. Not my best grades, but here we are. I would agree with Katie in that maybe I wish I wouldn't have taken a math class my first semester because those are said to be one of the hardest classes at Duke. And yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. See, we all stand in solidarity with each other in struggling through, and it's okay. We have a question from Deb, Stephen, and Daniel about research and research opportunities at this school, which types we have, and how difficult or easy is it to get them. And Jason, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I'll jump right onto that. So just for context about kind of the research that I do. So I work in 2 different psychology labs here, and I found them both in similar ways, but I also know a ton of people who do research here. So by the numbers, it's something like about half of Duke students will do research while they're here at Duke. I'm a tour guide, so they kind of tell us to tell you that. And research can take a lot of different forms. So you could do just volunteer research. You can do paid research. You can do research for like a half course credit, just kind of like a smaller commitment, or you can do like a full independent study and like replace one of your classes. And so I'm doing that this semester. I did the half course credit last spring, and I'm also doing paid research in one of my labs right now. So there's there's a software somewhere. There's like a website where a lot of labs will post different research positions, research assistant positions, and that's how I found my 2 labs. Most people will find their labs just by talking to professors. You take a cool class, a professor mentions something that they're working on, and you just jump right in and like ask them, hey, like I heard about your research, like, are you looking for undergrad? Like, can I help you? They're either going to say like, yes, please help me. Like, I would love to have you here. Or they're going to say, no, like not right now, but I have this colleague who's working on this thing, or I have this doctoral student who's working on this project that you could really help with. Like, they really, really want your help. So that's kind of a big way to do it. There are also some kind of more application-based research opportunities, which I think Katie can talk about a little bit more.
Yeah, one thing, you guys know I'm an economics major. I don't do science. Like, I really don't do science. Like, I can kind of do math, get through it. I don't do science. I don't do blood. I don't know how people are doctors, just not for me. Everyone has different strengths. It's fine. I'm actually wearing my Bass Connections shirt right now. So I joined this thing called Bass Connections last semester. And it's a way for undergrads to get involved in research. And coming to college, I thought research was just for the people like Jason, who are science people. And I never thought I'd be doing any. But I'm actually on a project that researches the role of different religious ministries on campus. And by the way, that has nothing to do with my major, nothing to do with my minor, nothing to do with my certificate, just something I found interesting. And Bass Connections is this really cool program where you can find topics you're interested in and then get involved in undergraduate research. I don't think people realize that research doesn't necessarily always mean, the science stuff or all these numbers and all that. I get to look at survey results and make really cool graphs and analyze those results through my Bass Connections. And there's tons of different topics. So.
Awesome. Thanks for speaking to Bass Connections and Research, Katie and Jason. So we have a question from Davin about double majoring. Is double majoring manageable to do within 4 years? Short answer, yes, it is. Lots of people do double major. double majors. Is it a little bit difficult? Yes, you have to take a lot of classes. If you love what you do, why wouldn't you? You're taking, awesome classes at a great university with professors who really do know what they're talking about. So while it's possible, Duke, I do want to mention something very interesting that Duke has, which is the IDM, which stands for Interdepartmental Major, IDM. And what this major does, it allows you to take 2 majors and take half the classes from each major and put them together, and it makes 1 major. So if you really love, math, is math a major? Sure. If you really love math and you really love philosophy, but you don't necessarily want to take the 14 classes from the math major and 14 classes from the philosophy major, which would take up the majority of your class time at Duke, 24 out of 32 classes. Or 28 out of 32 classes. Go math. You have the opportunity to do the IDM, and you can do the interdepartmental major with any major Duke offers, which is awesome. And what you would do is, instead of taking 14 and 14, you would take 7 from math and 7 classes from philosophy, and together they make 1 major. And that is an option if you're worried about the workload. And I know I keep going back to job people because I think a lot of Duke students, that's where their mind is. They love hearing that you've kind of made a major yourself. That's really cool because that doesn't happen often. I think we don't have any other double majors here. So I hope that answered your question. We're going to move on to study abroad, which is some of my favorite memories from Duke. Edwards, what study abroad opportunities are available at Duke, and are the costs of studying abroad included in the tuition? I know Jason studied abroad, and I studied abroad. So Jason, you want to talk about studying abroad, and maybe one of the other girls can talk about the application process.
Yeah, so I'll take this one. So I studied abroad last semester in Copenhagen. So just kind of a general overview of what study abroad looks like at Duke. So they're called like Duke in programs. It'll be like Duke in Madrid, Duke in Berlin, those sorts of things. It's going to be taught by Duke professors, and it's only Duke students, but it's just somewhere else in the world. And those are very, very, very popular. And you also have what are called third-party programs, and that's something that I did. So it's a program that's maybe not involved with Duke. Maybe it's some other university. Maybe it's just completely study abroad program. You can apply to that. Like if you get accepted, you can get Duke to approve the courses that you take. And so the program that I did was 1,200 students in Denmark, just completely studying abroad. So it was not at a university. It was just a study abroad program. And we studied at, an insane variety of things. Some people were doing biology. I was doing psychology and like political science stuff. Some people were doing like computer science. Like it covers the entire range of what you would want to do. And so that's kind of the benefit you have with non-Duke programs, is like stepping out of the Duke bubble, like away from tons of Duke people, and getting a really, really wide array of like experiences and like possible topics that you can take.
Katie, did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I can just talk a little bit about the application process, because I'm currently a second semester sophomore, and I'm going to study abroad in the fall. And I would say most students at Duke study abroad junior fall, just because honestly, I think a lot of people like being here for basketball season. Can't really blame them. I want to be here for basketball season. One thing that's really nice is you have a lot of options for where you want to study abroad, and Duke wants to make it work for you. So if you really want to go to this one really cool place, they're going to help you try and find a program that'll work. I've got a friend who's currently petitioning for this really cool program in Jordan and stuff. So I just wanted to kind of speak to the flexibility you have as a student, and also that honestly, there's so many different global advisors. It's so easy to stay on track as far as the application stuff. Like you will know exactly what to do, and then you will get to go where you want to go.
And the second part to Edward's question, just to kind of jump back in, was about financial aid and whether that is for study abroad, it's included in your tuition, that sort of thing. So when you go abroad, there's a small fee that's basically like reserving your seat here at Duke. Financial aid will cover that. Financial aid will also, depending on how much you get, offers the opportunity to give you a stipend while you're abroad and to cover the cost of your program. So if financial aid is covering the tuition that you're paying while you're here at Duke, they will also transfer that to to be helping you with your study abroad costs and the costs associated with that. So they are very, very helpful in kind of making that work for you.
Sorry. Yes, awesome. If you are thinking about studying abroad, I mean, obviously, this isn't a couple of years you have to worry about this, but honestly, learned so much about myself and about the world. And, you know, I'm going to be traveling after graduation now, which I never would have been doing had I not gone abroad. So 10 out of 10 would recommend. And also a question from Isadora, a really deep and hard-cutting question. And it says, some of the criticisms of elite universities is that it gets too cutthroat or competitive. Is this true at Duke? And these are the questions that I'm so proud and glad that admitted students are asking, because it matters. You're going to be dealing with this in 5 months. The truth is, yes, it's very difficult. However, something that I get told and that I have experienced personally is that the community that exists at Duke, while extremely difficult, while people do want to do well in their classes, people will not do whatever it takes to do well in their classes. So, I mean, there have been scandals at Ivy League universities where students will, walk in the library and steal notes of their peers so they can't study. That is not the culture at this school. The culture is so communal, I think, which is very unique to Duke being the, academically prestigious university that we are. The community, I think, is awesome. One of my favorite memories, East House, when I was in East Dorm my freshman year. Some of my favorite memories of freshman year were, all of us, 20, 30 kids sitting in the common room, sitting at tables, and people in the same classes helping each other with concepts they didn't understand. And that's something someone pointed, because I thought that was normal. I was like, oh, this is college. That's what people do. I had a friend visiting from an unnamed Ivy school, let's say, and she was like, that's not normal. Like, I never see people studying together. No one, everyone's too busy trying to help themselves to help other people. I love that. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. So, did anybody else want to add on to that? Hannah? Awesome.
Yeah. So, I remember when I came for Blue Devil Days and was part of I think it was business, a meeting. And the lady who was giving it said that I think something that's so special about Duke is that it's not cutthroat. And, me, I hadn't actually come in for the fall yet, so I didn't know the validity of her statement. But after 2 years here, I absolutely agree with her. I've never ever felt this, I don't know, cutthroatness, especially, and I think that may be indicative for the fact that the only school, pre-professional school we have here is the engineering program. And I want to go into business, but there's only an economics major. So therefore we don't have a business school. And I think that honestly takes away a lot of the cutthroatness of it. Everyone's here just for a liberal education, and no one's really, it's not competitive enough for you to be fighting with your peers. I've never felt that at all.
Awesome. Thank you. So we have a question from Jeremy. Has anyone taken a part of Duke Engage? Is it hard to find opportunities within Duke Engage? Several of us have done Duke Engage. I'm going to throw the question to Jason.
Yeah. Okay. So I did Duke Engage this past summer in Miami. So just to talk about kind of what it looks like to get in, or for those of you who don't know, Duke Engage is kind of a massive international civic engagement initiative that Duke has. It is completely open to undergrads. It is completely paid for. They pay for your housing, your transportation. They give you a stipend while you're there. You really don't have to pay for anything while you're doing Duke Engage. And the idea is to get students kind of away from, working in the private sector and just trying to make money, and getting them doing real good in the world. And it is, the admissions office loves to tell you that it is the most cited reason that people come to Duke. But it's a really great opportunity that you have. There are international programs all over the world, from China, Uganda to Ireland. There are a ton all around the US, kind of domestic programs, and you can make your own. So it's very, very flexible. So I did Duke Engage in Miami. Kind of full disclosure, I applied to an international program and didn't get it. And then I applied to this domestic program, ended up getting it. And I'll be honest, I think it was actually probably better for me that I did it because it was more related to what I wanted to do. I worked for an entire summer keeping low-income clients in their homes against kind of abusive landlords or like wrongful evictions. So, and I'm pre-law, so that's like extremely valuable experience for me to have. So, you know, while some of the programs can get pretty competitive, some of the international programs especially have really great reputations and are known for being very popular. You know, you can find programs that fit for you. If you apply one year, don't get it. If you apply the next year to the same program, like they take that into account and they're going to like bump you up the list a little bit to try to like help you get into the program. So like some of the opportunities can be hard to get, but but there are so many opportunities that if there's a program for you, like you're going to find it and you're going to have the opportunity to go on that trip.
Yes, so I also did Duke Engage this past summer, and I was able to get into the Durham, South Africa program. And I think Duke Engage is literally the best thing to ever happen to my college experience or life ever. Even if I won $1 million in this coming summer, this past summer was the best. It always will be. And so what I got to do was that I got to teach at a primary school, and then for the second half, I worked at a children's home / orphanage, and like in South Africa. And like these are things that I never ever would have had the opportunity to do had it not been Duke Engage. And like Jason said, it's a program funded by Melinda Gates, and Duke Engage is the largest civic engagement for undergraduates like in all of America. And I mean, I don't understand why anyone wouldn't do it. It's fully funded. I mean, everything's funded, and you learn things that you just never, ever would have.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. So we have a question just came in from Christopher. Is there a lot of left-wing, right-wing bias in the teaching at school? This is a liberal arts university. We are in a very, honestly, America's in a very toxic political environment right now. Luckily, at this school, at least in my experience, especially and in the classroom, I have not had to experience a lot of left-wing, right-wing bias. I was in a lot of political science classes my freshman year and a little bit into my sophomore year. And the professors I had were very professional with keeping their beliefs to themselves and trying to teach a just course, course load. So, or trying to teach like a just course. However, I have had many friends take classes with professors they said were just like so far left-leaning that they like couldn't stand it. But guess what? That's one class, one semester. You have 31 other opportunities to take classes with other professors. The truth is, if you are worried about that, if you are worried about the left-wing, right-wing bias in the classroom, you just do a little bit of research on the professor beforehand, and you will quickly find out what they believe or how they are in the classroom, and you can make a decision from there based on what you are looking for.
Yeah, just to add like a tiny little bit to that. So Duke in general is like a pretty liberal place, right? It's a lot of young kind of educated college students. We're in a very blue little sector of kind of the red state of North Carolina. One thing, like it really does depend, I think, on the classes you take. Political science people are going to be very kind of wary of kind of left or right or kind of where they're falling on the spectrum. If you're taking so I'm taking a class right now called the psychology of gender, right? That's going to be a pretty left-leaning class. If you're studying gender, sexuality, and feminist studies, you're going to be getting kind of left-wing kind of teaching. If you're taking economics, like it's probably going to be somewhere more kind of in the middle. So it's, I have not heard of anyone being so kind of outraged by how a professor teaches or anything like that, that it's really like affecting their learning. Like the professors are very, very professional, and the students kind of tend to lean towards the left, but there are groups on campus for kind of all, belief systems along the spectrum. We have Duke Democrats, we have Duke Republicans, we have Young Americans for Liberty, kind of the libertarian groups. Like Duke is very politically active. So if you're worried maybe that you're a little bit more leaning to the right than most people, like you will find spaces on campus with people who think similarly to you, and you'll expose yourself to different ideas in and out of the classroom. So it's a really great kind of political discourse community.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We have a question from Heather. How prevalent is Greek life in terms of social scene at Duke? The truth is, Greek life is more prevalent at this university than at most other Ivy League or other a similar schools similar in prestige to Duke. You will not find as active a social scene at other schools. However, that is not to say that Greek life is the only thing that matters for your social life at Duke. It does matter. I'm going to completely be honest with you. In my experience, I spent my first 2 years at Duke in a sorority, and I've spent my last 2 out of a sorority. It really depends on who you are. I loved it while I was in it. Loved it. Thought that was the greatest thing in the world. And now that I'm out, I'm like, why was I in? Like, I'm loving it like how it is right now. Like, I'm loving my life now. So, and I still have an active social life. It's not as much like partying and like, doing, what the kids do, but it's definitely, I'm at like a much better place and I'm much happier doing what I'm doing now. And it's just a matter of finding your people at this school, finding your people. Yeah. So I think Katie want to add on to that? I think she's in 2 different ones. So
yeah, so I'm actually, and I think Jason can also talk a little bit too about like fraternities and such, but I'm in both Greek life and I'm in a selective living group. And selective living groups are an alternate to Greek life that Duke offers that is also very social, but some of them have themes. Almost all of them are co-ed, and they're really just about people you like to hang out with. There are also groups that you rush. For those of you guys who aren't familiar with what rush is, it's where you kind of go through a process to see what groups you fit best in, talk to the people in those groups. I'm in both. It's usually pretty rare that you'll see people in both, but I really like it because I get different things from Greek life that I wouldn't get from my SLG. I get different things from my SLG that I wouldn't get from Greek life. My SLG is actually all female. It's like a woman's empowerment, like feminine based one, which is really nice. So, but I don't feel like one or the other necessarily dominates, and you've got a lot of options as far as what you like to do. Like there's nothing, you never feel pressured to do Greek life or a selective living group or being independent. You just do what's right for you, and you will find plenty of social outlets with that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we have a couple questions in the comment section about Pratt School of Engineering. What do we know about it? How does it compare to other engineering programs? Laid back, stressful, what are job prospects? None of us are actually in Pratt, so we cannot answer in depth. But I know Jason has lots of friends, so I'm going to have him take this question over.
Yeah, so I can't speak from my personal experience being in the Pratt School of Engineering because I've never wanted to go anywhere near that. But I happen to know like an absurd amount of people who are doing engineering kind of across all of the different majors in the engineering school. So kind of to go down some of the questions. So how does it compare to other engineering programs? I think Pratt has a really solid reputation, right? I don't think overall, it's not going to be like one of the top ranked programs in like every single area, but our biomedical engineering program is known for being, I think it's been ranked like 2nd in the nation very, very consistently. It is the oldest biomedical engineering program that we have. And the other programs are known for being like quite rigorous and like preparing you well for the professional world or for whatever it is that you want to do. Engineers generally tend to be quite successful. So is it laid back or stressful? I think it can be, it's both at different times. I think engineers kind of are like a little bit more high stress. It is more quantitative classes. It's more, it's less theory based. It's more going to be like application and really like calculating and doing a lot of math and stuff. And job prospects are really phenomenal. I know tons of engineers who do an insane variety of things. I know people who go into kind of like just strictly engineering. They're going to go get an advanced degree in engineering. They maybe do like a 4+1 master's program here at Duke, which is pretty popular, or they go into consulting or something completely different outside of engineering. The academic rigor of the program prepares you for lots of different careers, and employers know that, and they really do help you find other different kind of career paths. So how are the courses? The courses are pretty good. It's more structured. So like in the liberal arts program, you have your kind of liberal arts requirements. You have to get, different types of classes, foreign languages, like natural sciences, social sciences, humanities, arts, that sort of stuff. Engineering, you have to do like a little bit of social sciences, but you're going to mostly be doing kind of like a formulaic kind of laid out structure for what your courses will be in your time here. And that's across all of the engineering majors. I think a lot of engineers like that. They like having just the guide. It's like very easy, and they can just take a few kind of Trinity classes every once in a while. ECE majors, kind of specifically to ask about them, the ECE majors do quite well for themselves. It's a bit more hardware based than I think a lot of people realize. So I know a lot of people who do electrical and computer engineering and computer science, kind of get the hardware and the software. And I actually know a friend recently who dropped the ECE major because it wasn't really relevant to what he wanted to do, but you can make it fit with whatever you want. And finally, question with this, can engineers study abroad? Yes, it's something about a third of engineers here do study abroad. There are fewer opportunities for study abroad for engineers because there are so many like specific requirements and classes that have to be covered and that Duke has to give you credit for. But there's a pretty robust program that goes to Australia. And I know a lot of people who like will decide to study abroad as engineers and will make that work like with their advisors and everything.
Yes, so I'm not in Pratt, but my freshman roommate was in Pratt. And so I guess to explain a little bit, there are two different undergraduate schools. There's Pratt, which is engineering, and there's Trinity, which is like all other majors. And the requirements for either are slightly different. If you're in Pratt, you don't have to fill the language requirement. But with that being said, your course load for the next 4 years is more like on a track. It's more planned. And if you're in Trinity, you do have to fill out a major requirement, but you will have a little bit more freedom in the things that you, like the classes that you want to take to fill your major. And it's actually funny because there's like a Pratt, Trinity, I don't know, like there's jokes about them. Like on campus, it seems like there's a different culture between Pratt and Trinity students, and sometimes there's like a friendly rivalry.
Just to add one quick thing kind of before we end that. So you are going to like enter into Trinity or into Pratt, like if you've been admitted already, like you have been given that decision, you can switch between the two fairly easily, or you can take classes across the two or major across the two. They are very flexible, even though they are distinct kind of schools.
Yes, that was a good point to add. Thank you. So let's talk about food, because who doesn't want to know about all the great food we have on campus? Actually just knew this last year what is the Duke University West Broadhead Center. It is called the Broadhead Center now. Lots of people still refer to it as West Union because that was its name for the first year of its existence. And it is like the hot spot for all of the greatest food on campus. So they have really anything imaginable. What are you feeling? What are you hungry for? Just go get it at the Broadhead Center. So Italian, Chinese, Japanese, American comfort food. You have like the Southern food, Indian, some of my favorite. You have salads and like the health bar. You have a vegan restaurant. You have like a taco / like Tex-Mex area. Literally everything. And if you don't want any of that fancy stuff and just want McDonald's, it's like across the way. And like, yes, there's McDonald's on campus. We have Red Mango, which has like some great froyo. Love Red Mango. The Loop is another option. It's like American. It's more just like American bar food. So like pizza, burgers, shakes. Some of my favorite foods, shakes ever. Div Cafe is another place. It's in the Divinity School, which is it's like a graduate kind of like religious studies program, I suppose. But Div School brunch, when you get on campus, everyone will always talk about Div School brunch and how you have to go to Div School brunch. And guess what? They're right. You do. Some of the greatest, what's their thing? Grilled cheese, the Div School grilled cheese. Someone just mentioned it in the in our like chat thing here. So you gotta get it. If you're gonna come to Duke, yeah, like everyone's good at their stuff. They're like good at their like volunteering, or they're like getting A's and whatever. But like the food, no. We are consistently rated #1 in America for the best food plan and food program of all universities. we're very proud of that. Duke students are very proud of that. We eat a lot. Let's talk about, and who else wants to add on? Like, I know we're all passionate about like the food here, so I'm just going to throw that one out.
Yes, and so we have a lot of food, which Thorn covered. But I will say is that one of the reasons that we're ranked #1 across colleges in America is because we also have a lot of like different types of options. So a lot of my vegan friends, actually I know a lot of people who wanted to become vegan and then became vegan at Duke because it's so easy to be a vegan here. There's lots of vegan, vegetarian options, kosher options, halal options. Yeah, so there's good food, but there's also food that caters to whatever needs that you have as well.
Yeah, and just a little bit more kind of the logistical information about food. So as a freshman, we've mentioned kind of marketplace, and that's the all-you-can-eat place that you're going to go. Your meal plan as a freshman will be mostly swipes into the marketplace. You'll also have some food points, which you can get like food points are just kind of dollars basically that are specifically used for food. You'll have some of those as a freshman, but as an upperclassman, that will be your entire meal plan is food points. And so you can use them at any of the eateries on campus. You can use them at like the Duke store stuff to get food, like at the lobby shop. It's just like a convenience store place we have. You can buy food there with your food points. You can also do merchants on points. So we have agreements with vendors in the city of Durham who will like deliver to campus. Once West Union closes, so after 8 p.m., they'll deliver to campus. You give them your card. They'll charge you for that there, and so you don't have to pay out of pocket for Domino's or Papa John's or Sushi Love or Dragon Gate, like these different places that you can get to deliver directly to your dorm, like right to you, like on food points. So it's a very kind of robust system. You can get a lot of different options on campus or like get off campus to like be brought to you here.
Awesome. Okay, so we are rounding out our chat here with the last question, which is very sentimental. Why did you choose Duke over any place else? And as a senior and leaving this place, I will answer first. And if I have to be completely honest, I visited Columbia the week before I visited Duke, the weekend before I visited Duke for Blue Devil Days. And I remember telling my mom, I was sitting at one of my siblings' baseball games, and it was after my Columbia visit, but before my Duke visit. And I sat there and told her, I said, I know we're visiting Duke next weekend, but do not let me choose Duke. I know I want to go to Columbia. I know that's my school. And she was like, okay, sort of. Okay. She always kind of knew I'd go to Duke. And then we got here, we got on campus. After about an hour, I was like, this is my home. There's obviously no other choice. Like, this is where I have to be. It was how kind everybody on campus was. Like, if I was lost or if I had a question, they would just like either, if not walk me to my next location, just like take out the time and like tell me where to go. And I mean, people would walk by our tour group, like smiling, like waving. It was just like, I want to be a part of this. Like the Southern hospitality, even though, we're people from all around the world at this school, there's kind of this like this awesome overshadow of Southern hospitality. And it's just, I'm not going to get emotional, but it's really awesome. It's really awesome. And I think it has to be that the people here is the reason I chose it.
Sweet. Well, I'll go next and say there were kind of two big reasons I chose Duke. One of them was the community, and the other was the diversity here. And now, every single school has got their stats on diversity, and you've got different people from this group and that group and all that. And I went to a high school that was super, super diverse, and so I really wanted that again in college. But one thing that really stood out to me about Duke was that it wasn't that you just had these stats here of different people, but people were very open to interacting with different groups and being open to conversations surrounding that stuff. And people weren't necessarily compartmentalizing themselves across the board, especially with the whole freshman year experience when you're not associated by different living groups or anything. Everyone is just on East Campus. So that experience was just, I know I've spoken about everyone living on East Campus already freshman year, but it's just so great being with all these different people from all these different backgrounds and just everyone wanting that. The second thing for me too was community. I know Soren also already touched on this, but just the fact that people want to work together. I'm a talker. I'm a group studier. Like, I need to work with other people when I'm studying for exams. And I'm not the kind of girl who's going to go lock myself away in a room and study so I can get a better grade than everyone else in my class. One thing I noticed about Duke, especially coming here just to look at it, and even just walking through the libraries, you notice people are working together and people are helping each other out. And everyone's like, okay, we're all in this together. Yeah, we got into Duke. Now that we're here, let's all work together and go from here. So those were kind of my two big things. And here I am. And it's great. So.
Do either Hannah or Jason, do you guys want to like add on to that?
I'll go. I didn't know if Jason was going to go next. Yeah, so I guess the reason I chose Duke was because obviously I wanted to go to a school with a great academic reputation, but I also wanted to go, like, college for me wasn't going to be study for the next 4 years. Like, college is a place where you grow, you meet people from everywhere. You have some social aspects, you have some athletic aspects, and for me, like, Duke was all that put together. Like, great academic reputation, great basketball reputation. It's not just work all the time. Like Soren said, like some of the other Ivy Leagues, or we're not an Ivy League, like, there is more of like a social, like, Greek life presence. And so I think that, like, I think Duke is a pretty well-rounded place. And also, like, when you walk around campus, it's just absolutely, like, stunning. And, like, even after 2 years here, I'll still walk around on the plaza, look at, like, the sun setting on the chapel, and I'm like, that's just beautiful. So yeah, to Jason.
Yeah, so kind of, bringing up the caboose of this whole thing about why we all love Duke and why we came here. So when I was touring schools, So in high school, I was very well-rounded. I did a lot of different things, right? I did well in school. Like, I wasn't the best in school, but I did really, really well. And, like, I also did a lot of other things that I loved doing that I was really passionate about. And that was kind of how I chose my friends, was finding people who were also well-rounded and also passionate. So I wanted a place that was going to kind of mimic that in my entire life. And one of the beautiful things about Duke is that everyone has their things that they're passionate about. And there are trends. There are a lot of people who are kind of pre-med. There are a lot of people who like doing their research. There are a lot of people who are kind of like sportier. But you're going to meet people who do completely different things from you. I was an RA last year, so I supervised freshmen. One of my residents was working on, in his gap year before coming here, a documentary in Tibet. Like, he was doing like a fully like solo project on this documentary, like, that he was working on. And his entire room was very creative, very artistic, like how he was designing his entire documentary. And that's something that I would never do, something that I don't particularly, care about, but it's fascinating to just hear him talk about it and to see his creative process. So people who are good at what they do and who really love what they do. The collaborative environment was a huge part of it as well. I didn't want people rooting against my success. College is hard. I knew I was going to be going to an academically rigorous place. I didn't want, my fellow students to be trying to cut me down at every step. I wanted people who were going to build me up and kind of help me with that. And then kind of the final thing that I don't feel like we haven't really touched much on here, mostly because of the questions and things, but like sports and like the school spirit. Like, that's something that is kind of really big here. You have Duke basketball, which is obviously like, a massive program, kind of, big thing with Coach K and everything. But even down to like intramural sports and like club sports, like, people here are very like active. They're very engaged. They love being at Duke, and they love kind of Duke's success in all of its different realms, including like its sports teams and its student athletes, and like being very engaged in that way. And I wanted a place where, kind of like Hannah said, like, I'm not just going to go and study and just stay in the library for my entire life. I want people like in my entire world that I can go, like the same group of people who I can like go out with on Friday and like go to a basketball game on Saturday and like, study all day Sunday, that sort of thing. And you really do find that here. There's a place for everyone, I think, and really kind of a well-rounded community that welcomes tons of different perspectives and different kind of opportunities.
Oh, thank you guys. Those all made me smile. Thank you all, viewers, for staying with us for this hour. We have had so much fun answering all of your questions. Thank you actually so much for sending such good quality questions in. This is the stuff that matters. This is the stuff that you're going to want to know when you get on campus next fall. Thank you. We have another talk April 18th at 8 p.m. Again, April 18th, 8 p.m. Put it in your calendars. exactly what we're doing now. We're going to have a few other students, few different students. You're going to get some different opinions. Throw in, if you come up with more questions, put them in the comment section then, and someone will answer them. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful Saturday. Bye.